If you enjoy these tutorials and you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button below. Good morning. So I am getting fabrics pulled to make a paper pieced block. And for each of these segments of the block, we're going to do a kind of a rainbow array. You're going to need to have some fabrics pulled. So I'm going to go over what I've done here with you first. So for each segment, you're going to need 3 scraps of fabric that are going to work into your quilt block. Okay, so there's my orange that I've selected, and you'll see the sizes when we do the paper piecing. I will get that for you. And then this is going to be my blue, and you see I'm just using scraps. This is going to be my center for my purple, and then I'll have my line and my point. Okay, and then this is going to be my green. I've got my center. This will be my line fabric, my line, and my outside. I'll fussy cut those, and I'll show you how to do those. But for right now, just start pulling some fabrics. This will be my center. This will be my line. This will be my outside. I might find a center. I'm going to try and look through my scraps and see if I can find a center that has a more interest in it besides just a plain solid. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up there. And the last one is the yellow. And I've got 2 possible centers. This is going to be my outside and my border line, and I've got this B that is kind of faint, but you can see it on there. I might use that, or I might use this. So we'll see what we decide on when the time comes. Okay, so start pulling your fabrics. You just need some scraps. They need to be, I would say your scraps need to be about 5 inches for the outside edges, and your inside you just need a small piece that's about at least 2 inches wide, a strip. And same with your border. So you see here I've done this, but when I put it into my piece, it's going to go right here. So you can see that that's going to not take up very much of that fabric. You want to have enough to go 1/4 inch around on your piece. Okay, now let's talk a bit about some other supplies that you're going to need to paper piece this block. In addition to our scraps, which we've already discussed, you'll need some scrap background fabric. And I think I had about 1/4 yard when I made the first block, and I didn't even use anywhere near that. So we'll talk about that as we go along. But get yourself some background scraps out. Could be plain white, could be any kind of a background that you like. You're going to need a glue stick. This is an Elmer's washable glue stick. These are nice, not essential, but they're very nice. It's called an add 1/4 plus ruler, and it has a ledge on the back, and you'll see how we use this as we make the block. But if you don't have that, any ruler that has 1/4 of an inch dimension on it, that's not a good example. Let's see, where's this one? Okay, so this has 1/4 of an inch right here on the edge, and you can see I've got that masked off right there. So that would be your 1/4 inch, and we could use that, and I'll show you how to use that as we go along. Rotary cutter and a mat. Okay, or if you don't have that, scissors will work, but a rotary cutter and a mat will make it really easy and nice. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do is get the pattern, and I will put a link to my Etsy site for you for that. And then what I want you to do is we're going to take the go ahead and take the thread out of your machine, the bobbin and the spool, and you're going to stitch with a needle on each of the lines that you see on the top. And I'll show you about why we're going to do that later, but it's going to make it really easy for you. to line things up properly and to later when you go to tear the paper out, to tear it out. So I want you to do that right now, and we'll come back. You've gone through all your paper pieces and you've perforated them, and what we're going to do now is we are going to create the wedge that looks like this. Okay, so the first thing I like to do, I enjoy using this little light box. You can get these at Amazon or just any number of places. They run about $20. They're not real expensive. And I'm going to put my paper on here upside down so that I can still see the perforations and the areas, but it's going to be the part that I'm going to stitch. And I'm just cutting this roughly from my fabric here because I want to kind of line up my design. So you can see this has an oval on it, and that's what I want to line up on my piece right here. So if I carefully do that, I can go ahead and take my glue stick and just give myself a little glue. Don't glue out in the perforated areas or beyond your tip. You just want to have enough to hold that first piece in place. Go ahead and carefully line it up, and there you go. If you don't have a light box and you want to get going on this project, you can. Just hold it up to a window. You could tape this onto the window, your pattern piece, your paper piece, tape it onto a window, and then you can go ahead and use your glue stick and line up your fabric just as you wish, okay? So you don't have to run out and buy a light box, but it is helpful. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim away the excess. Now, this is where the perforated lines are going to come in handy. I'm going to fold this on my perforated line right there. I'm going to use my add a quarter ruler, my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to trim that excess away. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to fold that on that line, and I've got my perforations, so I know I'm right on there. And now if you don't want to use an add a quarter, if you don't have one, just get the quarter inch measurement on any of your rulers will work. Line that up to your paper so that you have a 1/4 inch hanging over the edge, and go ahead and trim that off. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and trim off the excess that's on the outside of my piece. So I don't need that. The seam allowances are already calculated into this paper piece for you, so you don't have to add a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so there's our first piece, all in order. Now, the next two pieces that we're going to put in are background pieces. They don't have to be background. You could make them any color you want, but I am making them background fabric for this particular block. Now I'm going to take a piece that's big enough, and I'm going to just trim it right here. Okay. And I am going to line that piece up along that straight edge there. And I'm going to tuck a pin into it. I know my lady friends are freaking out because I haven't closed my rotary cutter. Don't worry, I've got it out of the way. Okay, then we're going to take and we're going to stitch along this solid line, and you can see we've got the back lined up with our stitch line, our quarter inch allowance that we cut. Okay, here we go. We're going to stitch. You're going to shorten your stitch length to about 2 or even less, and that's going to help you when you go to remove your pieces. Okay, so now we've got that stitched on. You're stitching on the side of the paper that has the lines. Your fabric's underneath. And the reason I put a pin in here is I don't want things to go wandering in there and then I'm stitching something I have to tear out later. Okay, open your seam up make sure you open it all the way. Get your fingernail in there and just press that seam open. There you go, just like that, okay? Now we're going to trim this, and before we do, I'm going to tuck my pin in again, right here. It's out of the way of the areas that I'm going to be running my scissors, so, or my rotary cutter. So you fold that piece back, take your, add a quarter ruler and line it up to your paper and trim that away. Okay, and then on the top, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. My fingers don't want to work today, I'm sorry. There we go. Line your 1/4 inch up. Now you don't have to add a 1/4 inch, it's already calculated into this pattern for you. So there, we've got our first piece done. Now we're going to add another background piece on this side. So we're going to go ahead again and cut ourselves a piece of fabric that is big enough to cover that area. We know that it's big enough because we can lay it over and see that it's plenty big, okay? Now, if you don't like wasting fabric, if paper piecing kind of freaks you out that way, you can get yourself some template plastic at your local craft store, or you can get a folder from the Dollar Tree that's clear, and cut yourself, you'll trace it onto your pattern. This is for my Wensleydale, but you would trace it on with a marker, and then go ahead and cut it out, rough cut it out. It doesn't have to be precise. You're going to use this as your template to cut your fabric, so you've already got that 1/4 inch allowance in there, and then you're not wasting a whole chunk of fabric like I'm doing in this video, okay? That will be helpful. And you would cut a template for each piece on your block. Okay, again, I'm tucking a pin out of the way of my seam allowance. I've got fabric lined up wrong sides together against that next seam that we're going to make, and we're going to stitch from the top of the fabric, from the top of the paper on our solid lines. There we go. All right. Got a little thread there. Gotta get rid of that. Okay. Now, from the back side again, take your pin out, and you're gonna finger press open your seam. Use your thumbnail, and just really get that good. You can press it with an iron if you want. It's not necessary. Just your thumbnail will do the trick. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and poke a pin in here, and we're gonna make sure our fabric is smooth and open all the way, and then we can trim it back. Now, remember last time we folded on the next line, and we're going to go ahead and trim that away. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim it away on the other side as well, just like this. Okay, so right now we've got our centerpiece and our 2 background pieces. Now I'm going to use a strip that will go right in here in this area. We're cutting number 4. It's going to go in here, and I just want it to extend beyond my area there. So I've almost used up the last of this fabric. I'm sad. It was a good binding fabric, and it's good in these pieces. Okay, so again, we've got our piece lined up against the 1/4 inch seam that we trimmed on our background pieces, and we're going to go ahead and tuck a pin in out of the way of our seam. Okay. Excuse me. The wind's been blowing like crazy here in Idaho, and there we go. We're just gonna I think it sucks all the water out of my body. There we go. Okay, so we've trimmed that. We're gonna open this piece up, and you can see how you get just a perfect point when you're doing paper piecing. It's just effortless. Okay, again, we have finger pressed that. Use your thumbnail, and I'm trying to grab a pin here. Use your thumbnail and just really crease that and get it open good. Tuck your pin out of the way of your seam that you're going to be trimming. We're going to fold back that next piece. We're going to use our 1/4 inch ruler, and we're going to trim that away. Okay, so I have a perfect 1/4 inch right there. Okay, now I'm going to trim the excess off the sides. Everybody says, oh, it takes so long to perforate your paper with the sewing machine, but it really doesn't, and it just makes your whole design come together pretty. Now, I like this. This is a Philip Jacobs for cave facet fabric, and I'm gonna trim out of the middle here a chunk, because I really like this, and I think I'm going to use my block here to get something that's relatively large enough and perfect. Okay. I never throw out my cave scraps. I just love the cave and Philip Jacobs. It's like Tula Pink. Tula Pink for my generation. Oh, there we go. I do love Tula Pink though too. Okay, we've got our piece cut. It's gonna go right here. I'm gonna lay it along the edge of the piece that I just trimmed away here. And I'm gonna put a little pin in. Tuck that pin all the way through. Make sure that's smooth. Okay, we've got that so that it's lined up with the edge of our piece that we just cut. We're going to take our piece to the machine now again, and we're going to stitch all the way across. Okay. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull up, and we're going to finger press that and just crease it really good. Okay. And we're going to tuck our pin in again, out of the way of our cutting lines. And we're going to fold back on the perforation. Pop that little seam if you need to. It's not going to hurt anything. We're going to trim away the excess. And we're going to do the same thing on this other side. We're going to pull that away. And we'll trim away the excess. Okay. Beautiful. beautiful. Okay, now I need a piece that's going to fit here. That will if I slide it down just a bit. Okay, let's see. That's 6, yep. Okay. So I want to make sure I have enough fabric outside. That's cutting it awful close. I think I could do it, but I'm going to not be brave today with you guys. I will just cut myself another chunk. And I'll need a chunk for the other side. And you can see I'm being very generous, okay? You can always add on. If you find that you didn't have enough fabric to cover that area, you can just add on. And I'll show you how to do that in another video. Okay, so we've got our piece finger pressed really good up to the top. Okay, now we're going to slide our piece up. We know it's going to go here. We know it's going to fold over like this. We have enough fabric. So we'll go ahead and put that together with a pin. And again, tucking it in where we're not stitching. All right, we're going to go over here. Even though the line is not marked all the way to the outer edge, I'm starting from the outside edge of the piece and stitching in on this because I want to catch everything. So you can see I'm coming way out here and stitching across. Okay. Again, we're going to fold this out, finger press really well, tuck your pin in where it's not in your cutting area, and we've got our seams here. We're going to trim away our excess, just like that. Trim away your excess over here. I'm probably out of camera view again. I'm sorry. Okay, so we've trimmed away and we have a nice piece there. Now we're going to do this last piece, and you can audition your fabric and make sure it's gonna fit. We like that. Okay. Oh, I like that even better. Okay, so we'll go just like that. I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to tuck my pin in out away from the seam line, fold it over, and I'm going to stitch. Okay. I have to be a little careful with my finger right now. I had surgery on my middle finger last Monday to remove a cyst, and we got pretty close on that one piece there, so that's we'll want to watch out. It'll be inside our seam allowance, so it's going to be okay, but okay. So this is a good opportunity for me to show you what to do if you cut this piece too short and it didn't go all the way to your edge. Say it went just right to here, okay? You didn't have enough, or you had smaller pieces. So you just go ahead and you take another piece, line it up, and go ahead and stitch it on and flip it over just like you would the others. It's going to create a line or a seam in your piece, but nobody's going to notice that when you're all finished. So there we go. We've done another wedge. So we have these wedges, which are going to be on opposing sides, and that's how you do that. Now you're going to go ahead and go through your others, and I will do those off camera for you so that they're all done, and we'll come back and we'll put this together. Okay. Okay, so when you're putting this together, the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do is pull your papers completely out, and you're going to stitch one side to this center and one side to the center. You're going to press your seams open. Use a pin to match up your points. Okay, you're going to do a half and a half, and then we're going to stitch this together, and I'll come back in a minute and show you the finished block. Your block will finish up at 12.5 inches, and this is what it'll look like. And I'll give you some other samples, but all of these seams are going to be pressed open, and you're going to pin match them each together, okay? When you're done stitching this block, because it's some of the pieces are on the bias, the edges, you want to be careful with it. I would run a small stitch around the edge here, like 1/8 of an inch in, just to make sure everything is stable. Starch it really well and press it, okay? So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer them for you. And if you need more of a tutorial than this, I'll be happy to do one. Just let me know what you want to see. If you enjoy these tutorials and you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button below.